Hello, I'm Dr. Alexander Kollias. I am a clarinet and bass clarinet teacher here at the Hartt School Community Division. Today I will be talking to you about the bass clarinet all-state piece, Adagio and Allegro by Galliard. This is a transcription from the original work, which is for bassoon or cello, that has been transcribed by Merriman for bass clarinet. So the first thing I would like to discuss is the Adagio movement. In the beginning of this movement, you'll see on your part that you'll be reading for the bass clarinet that it says Adagio quarter equals 76. So let's just hear what that would sound like. Doesn't sound very Adagio, right? Not Adagio normally we think of as slow and lyrical. That was quite lively and maybe even more of a walking tempo like an andante. So we can then move over to looking at our piano score, and we'll notice that the Adagio is eighth note equals 76, which is a much more appropriate tempo for this piece. You can hear much more slow, lyrical, much more in the Adagio kind of feel. So another reason why we should always check our piano scores, but I understand that it's conflicting information, and so go with the original composer's marking of Adagio and pick a tempo much closer to the 76 eighth note tempo. It also can have a certain range within Adagio, and this is the certain choice of the transcriber to have eighth note is 76. We can also play probably as fast as eighth note equals 88. I like this slightly faster tempo because it helps to keep the music a little bit more flowing and moving in a nice forward direction, so we don't get this very, very stale kind of and extra breaths that will interrupt the phrase this way. The next thing on this movement, what I would like to talk about, are the trills. As this being a Baroque piece, it is important to understand how the trill would have worked in terms of also both harmonically and melodically. So here we see that there's a trill, one before A, written over the dotted eighth G, resolving to F. So if we play starting on G, it sounds this way. I'll play from the pickup note to one before A. This then creates a kind of accented passing tone, which with the resolution then coming on to G, and it works all right, but it sounds better to create the appoggiatura of the A coming down to G, starting on the note above, and it will sound this way. Then we get this three-note passing tone down, resolving down to the F, and this is much more characteristically and stylistically correct for the era. This should be true for all of the trills within both movements. When practicing the second movement, there are a couple of things to consider. The first is, of course, tempo, once again, as in the first movement. Quarter note equals 116 is the suggested tempo marking, and something close to that would be fine. 112, 120, anything is fine, whatever that you find is most comfortable and can be very clean for your playing to show off the cleanliness of articulation and notes. The second thing I would like to talk about is the articulation itself. So you'll notice in your part that it says at the bottom, all slurs in this movement are optional. This comes from the Baroque idea that the instrumentalist that they would be writing this piece for, that they would make the decisions on their own of what the articulations were. And we can do the same here for bass clarinet when we play this transcription. So I always make sure that I'm looking at the piano score to see what the piano part is doing. So, for example, in the first 3 measures, we see that on beats 4 of both first 2 measures, that the piano also is playing 4/16 notes with us. So it would be better to play articulated as we'll be matching the piano this way, creating this nice unison, so to sound this way. It would be also just as fine to play the 16th notes slurred to create a contrast with the piano, and it would sound this way. When looking ahead to later measures, like in measures 3 or 6 and 7, we see that there's differences within the parts. In measure 3, the piano is playing 2 beats of 16ths, and then we play 2 beats of 16ths. So in this way, if they play all articulated, if we slur the first 2 in this way on beats 3, then it's totally fine, and it would sound this way. Or you can tongue all 4 of them, or all 8 of them. Either would be just fine. Again, if you want to create contrast with the piano part, you could slur all of them. That would be just as fine. I like to do 1, 2, 3, 4 before B, if you count with me. You'll see that the piano part has dotted 8ths to 16th. So when we do the articulation here, we have a little bit more leeway in our decision, because we could do slur 2, tongue 2, we could do slur 3, tongue 1 to match the shape of the piano part. Either would be fine. So when you're making your decisions of articulation, make sure to look at the piano part and understand how the piano is functioning and where their line is and where you're part of the piano line or not, and then you can make an informed decision of how to best articulate within this piece.